Well, there are a lot of questions surrounding the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this offseason, and now the Baltimore Ravens as well, both getting rid of their offensive coordinators. The Bucs, they fired Byron Leftwich after a disappointing 8-9 season and a first-round exit on Monday night. The Ravens and OC Greg Roman now parting ways. So we now have 10 franchises seeking offensive coordinators. The teams needing new leaders to their offense include the Ravens, the Bucs, the New England Patriots, the Chargers, the Tennessee Titans. We've got Washington on that list, the LA Rams, the Jets. Then, of course, we have to add in the Colts and the Cards as well. And this year's list of coaching candidates, they offer a variety of skills, talent, and experience that all are waiting to see where they're going to end up in the future. And when we talk about our skills, talent, and experience, we have to welcome in our former GN, Rick Spielman. First, we're going to talk about the latest firing, and then we're going to break down some of the top names on the market. So, Tampa Bay firing Byron Leftwich. The Bucs had an NFL low 76.9 rush yards per game this season. Tom Brady struggled. It seems like that move was inevitable. But then we just get the news now that Greg Roman is out in Baltimore. A little surprising there. We're now at 10 teams who need OCs. What is going on, Rick?
Yeah, no, if you look at it and why there's so much movement, especially at the offensive coordinator position, I believe two things. The first is it's a lot easier probably to fire an offensive coordinator than it is a head coach. And the other probably point that needs to be made is that there is so much more flexibility for position coaches to move to offensive coordinator from other teams as part of the new Rooney Rule in a league where a team cannot deny a position coach an opportunity to be a coordinator at the next level. So teams are trying to figure out, especially the teams that are struggling on offense, if there are some other bright, young-minded offensive potential offensive coordinators out there that they'll eventually try to hire.
So when you look at the OC list, we've got 10 teams when it comes to that, but we're going to turn our attention now to the 5 franchises seeking head coaches as we gear up for another active coaching carousel. Those teams needing a new leader at the helm. That's the Denver Broncos, the Arizona Cardinals, the Indianapolis Colts, the Panthers, and the Houston Texans. So we're going to turn our attention to some of the head coaching candidates on the market, and we're going to start with Sean Payton, who's retired after he's still under contract with the Saints following the 2021 season. So, Rick, where could you see him possibly landing?
Well, it's going to be what owner is willing to step up, not only from a compensation standpoint, where he'll want to be one of the highest, if not the highest paid coaches in the league. And he's got a lot of leverage because he's going to have it's almost like a player get into free agency, but where the snag may come is what is the draft compensation since he's still under contract. I've heard and I've talked to some people in the league, it's at least a first-round pick and it may be more. So a team's going to have to be willing to step up, not only to give them a first-round pick, but pay him, which could be anywhere between $15 to $20 million a year as their head coach. Now he's got, he's had so much success down with the New Orleans Saints. He got him to the Super Bowl. The amazing things that he did with Drew Brees, although you got to give Drew Brees credit. He's a great quarterback and a Hall of Fame, probably future Hall of Fame quarterback. But Sean Payton led that organization and led him to a Super Bowl and led him to a lot of winning records. So he's going to be the hottest commodity out there right now, I would say. And it's just a matter of what ownership group is going to be willing to pay the price to land a Sean Payton.
It's definitely a hefty price there. Now, next up, we're going to look at a guy like Dan Quinn, for example. He was a finalist for the Broncos head coaching job back in 2021. And you look at what he's been able to accomplish with the Cowboys defense. I mean, a huge improvement. It's been incredible to watch. So where does Dan Quinn end up?
Yeah, well, I had an opportunity to work with Dan in Miami when he was a defensive line coach. I just remember when he would go out to practice, he'd had on football shoes and spikes just like the players did. And that's how much energy he brought into the building and brought into that room. What you've seen what he did at Atlanta, he got them to a Super Bowl as well. And when he was out for a year, similar to Doug Peterson, he did a lot of reflecting, a lot of studying. And when you sit there, and I've talked to him a few times since he got back with Dallas, just on if he got another opportunity, how would he do it differently? But there's no question about his leadership, No question about the players love to play for him. And he's very innovative, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And you look how Dallas's defense just totally turned around when he took that over. He knows how to use players and their strengths and use them in different capacities in his defensive scheme. He adjusts the scheme to the players that he's working with. The biggest question would be, if I'm your head coach, and what I would ask him, what does your offensive coordinator look like? And more than likely, we have a quarterback issue, and what's the plan for the quarterback? And those are the things he's going to have to answer in the interview.
You know, it's always a good thing, too, when you say someone's name and the person just laughs and smiles. Like, clearly this guy has something special about him, so we'll see where he ends up there. All right, how about DeMeco Ryans? Just 38 years old. He's young. He became a defensive quality control coach just 2 years after retiring from the NFL. Since he's really climbed up that coaching ladder, so where could you see him leaning and ending up at?
Yeah, no, he is probably one of the more unique talents out there. I know, talking to some people that interviewed him last year, he just has a presence about him. He would be a first-time head coach. If you look back at his playing career and, went to a couple Pro Bowls, and when you hear players talk about him who played with him, they really talk about his leadership and his intelligence. And he was the quarterback of the defense. And that you're seeing applied to what he's doing with the San Francisco 49ers right now. Great defensive mind. You see the enthusiasm on the sideline. You see how the players really respond to his coaching. And when you go down this defensive side, there's no question about his leadership coming into an organization. All these owners are going to want to know, what's the plan with the quarterback and how do we get better offensively? But there's no question that he should get one of these head coaching jobs this year.
A lot of defensive-minded coaches on this list. And next up, we have Detroit Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn. He emerged as one of the first-time NFL coaching candidates in 2022. Do you think he gets that opportunity coming up this season?
Yeah, no, in fact, when you talk about Aaron Glenn, everybody's going to say, well, what makes him qualified? Because Detroit's defense struggled this year. But if you actually dig down deep into what he was able to do, he adjusted that scheme according to the personnel the second half of the year. He played, I think, the last game of the season with 6 starting rookies. He's a great developer of talent. He has an edge to him, but from a player perspective, similar to Dan Campbell, guys are going to follow him wherever he goes. So he's another candidate that has playing experience, that knows how to relate to the players, especially the players nowadays. Very smart from a schematic standpoint, and he got the most out of any of the coaches that we're talking about. I thought he was the one that got the most out of the least amount of talent on that defensive side of the ball.
Rick, thank you so much for your time, but don't go anywhere. We have much more to come with you. Now, if you're craving some more football talk, tune into the All Things Covered podcast. Our Bryant McFadden and Patrick Peterson, they're discussing what's happening on the gridiron, as well as what intrigues them off the field. The name definitely says it all. Expect all things to be covered.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.